Hey guys, Rainy Potato here with a guide covering the new relationship system in the latest update patch for Darkest Dungeon 2. We'll cover how you gain and lose affinity, how relationships are formed, and what the specific relationships actually do. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day. The affinity system is a gauge of how your heroes feel about each other. Each hero has a 21 pip affinity bar with each individual ally, ranging 0 to 20. Each affinity bar has 7 tranches that decide your chance of a relationship forming, also being affected by certain quirks and certain inns. Relationships can only be formed at inns, specifically at the embark screen after being given a chance to use inn items to further boost your affinity. The base chance for a relationship forming at neutral level, between 9 and 13 pips, is 5% in either direction. When in the friendly or unfriendly tranche, which is from 14 to 16 pips or 5 to 8 pips respectively, you have a base 33% chance at forming either a positive or negative relationship. When in the very friendly or unfriendly category, which runs from 17 to 19 or 1 to 4 affinity, you have a 65% base chance of forming a relationship. And finally, when at max positive or negative affinity, either 20 or 0 pips, you have a base 90% chance of a relationship. At the first inn, however, your chance of forming relationships is minus 20% to protect from getting bad RNG neutral relationships before you're even given a chance to get your affinity off the ground. It's important to discuss exactly how the relationship quirks work. For example, Selfish Quirk has plus 10% negative relationship chance. This quirk only affects you if your hero is in neutral or worse affinity. You can never get a random negative relationship if you are in friendly territory or above. This also goes for positive relationship quirks like Bon Vivant. You only receive the buff at neutral above. You can never clutch out a positive relationship if you're stuck at negative affinity. Now, let's talk about exactly how you go about gaining affinity. The very first node you will find in the valley after the altar is the assistant encounter, and these encounter locations, which include resistance, assistance, and cultist, along with creature dens, academic studies, and the oasis, are the first way to boost or lose affinity points. Most heroes will have an opinion on how the encounter should be resolved, and will either gain or lose affinity with each hero depending on whether they agree or not. You can see the affinity change by hovering over a hero. The glow of the other heroes will change depending on if they agree. Gold will gain +1 affinity with the selected hero. Blue will give you -2 affinity. The next way to either gain or lose affinity will be in combat. Buffing or healing a specific hero, either with a skill or a combat item, has a chance to give positive affinity between the two, although this affinity gain is random and is hidden from view and not telegraphed. On the other hand, if you want to heal another hero with another hero at lower health, for example, sometimes the hero not being healed will telegraph their disapproval with a blue arrow above their HP bar. It's important not to rush skill usage so you don't miss this signal, because if you choose to use the move anyway, you will always lose 2 affinity. Another way to gain affinity is through revenge attacks. If one of your heroes is hit by an enemy, and the very next action in combat is another hero returning the hit at that same enemy, you have a chance to gain affinity. In addition, they have added follow-up attack affinity. If one hero attacks an enemy, and the very next action in combat, another hero follows up that attack on the same enemy, you can gain affinity. And finally, moving another hero can cause affinity changes, positive if at lower stress, while getting negative affinity if at high stress. Again, the negative affinity will be telegraphed beforehand. Movement includes not only direct movement skills such as the Jester's Battle Ballad, but also moving yourself, such as with Rampart on the Man-at-Arms. And finally, when reaching 10 stress in combat, your hero will have a stress check and either end up resolute or have a meltdown. A resolute hero will boost affinity 4 pips with all allies, while the meltdown will have a devastating -4 affinity loss with all allies, the largest single action in the game, making handling stress crucial to retaining affinity. One of the simplest ways of gaining or losing affinity is while on the road. If you're at lower stress, or if you have a positive bark quirk like Bon Vivant, you can randomly gain affinity while traveling on the road. Notably, there is a stress threshold where if you are at 3 or lower stress, any bark you have will automatically be positive, unless you have a specific negative banter quirk. On the flip side, at 4 or higher stress, you can lose affinity, as well as certain negative banter quirks like Chatterbox. Having a stress healer who can keep your heroes under the threshold of 4, with either Jester's Inspiring Tune or Man-at-Arms Upgraded Bolster, or with items like Laudanum, will make it near impossible for you to ever lose enough affinity to get negative relationships. Finally, we have in-items. Some of these items, such as Roast Pig, provide AoE affinity gains on use. Others, such as Candles and Chocolate, allow a varying amount of affinity gain between 2 individual heroes. And of course, you have the random affinity items such as the playing cards and the Songbook of Touching Dirges that have a set chance of gaining either positive or negative affinity. It's notable that many of these items can also give you either positive or negative quirks. Ones like Pipeweed, Whiskey Barrel, or Roast Pig can give you Bon Vivant, which buffs your positive relationship chance and nerfs the negative, while playing cards can be dangerous, sometimes offering you the Tactical Thinker quirk, which is quite powerful, but sometimes giving you Braggart, which not only boosts your negative relationship chance, but also causes -2 affinity random road barks. Learning which items are worth spending money on and strategically timing their usage is key to forming relationships. Let's talk about what these relationships actually do. We'll start with the 3 distinct positive relationships you can form. On the Embark screen, you will be shown all the relationships that have been formed at the inn and will remain active for the next region and their effects. If you gain the Hopeful relationship, your 2 heroes will each have a skill randomly selected that will reduce stress by 1 for your partner on use. In addition, while in battle there is a chance at 1 of 2 random act-outs, where one of your heroes will bestow a massive buff on your hero, giving them plus 50% resistance to all dots, disease, stun, debuff, and move resist, and a 25% buff to death blow resistance, or heal your ally 5 stress and clear horror. With the Respectful relationship, your 2 heroes will have a random skill selected. The skill will buff your partner by giving them either a strength token or a dodge plus token on usage. In combat, your Respectful partner will occasionally tag team with you, utilizing their hero-specific act-out attack. They can also respond to an enemy attacking their partner with a revenge attack, again utilizing their specific hero act-out attack. And finally, we have the rarer Amorous relationship. Again, both heroes will have a skill selected. This time the skill will either clear all dots or heal your partner 10% of their max HP. The combat act-outs for this pairing are a random, massive 50% HP heal and dot clear, or occasionally your Amorous partner will step in and tank an enemy hit for you. The game will compare the HP of your 2 heroes in making this a more logical decision, so you won't have your low HP hero stepping in to take an attack for your tank. For all positive relationships, there is also a chance for random in-combat barks to heal stress. Now, on to negative relationships. For negative relationships, each hero will again have a skill randomly selected, but this time in addition to a debuff to the skill, it will now be permanently locked onto your bar, removing another one of your skills if not already selected. The selection is not entirely random, but will prioritize your already mastered skills. The Envious relationship is a mirror to Hopeful, debuffing the 2 selected skills by making them add 1 stress to your partner. Suspicious will debuff your 2 skills by having them add a Taunt token and Vaunt token to your partner. Resentful relationship will debuff your 2 skills by either adding a Blind token or a Weak token to your partner. And finally, we have Hateful, which will debuff your 2 skills by adding a Vaunt token to your partner, while also having a random act-out where one of the heroes will use their act-out attack to hit your partner. All negative relationships have a chance for random combat barks that increase stress on their partner. The affinity system, along with its partner, the stress mechanic, are the backbone of Darkest Dungeon 2. In my opinion, while positive relationships are indeed powerful, negative relationships are more impactful as they can lock random skills you don't want. This is why my priority with every inn and every encounter decision is to avoid dipping into the negative affinity zone, even at the cost of positive relationships. Thankfully, the first inn negates relationship chance, which means you can somewhat comfortably use all the affinity items you have at Inn 1 with fewer repercussions. Early in the run, and generally until I have a full team of positive affinity, I will always buy out every affinity item from every shop, save for some weaker items like Whiskey Bottle that aren't very cost effective. Again, when utilizing any 2-hero affinity item, the priority is to first get out of the negative zone and then out of the neutral zone, before trying to max out affinity on other heroes. This makes the 2-target guaranteed affinity items like pipeweed and candles and chocolate so important. In fact, at ends, if there are no heroes that can be moved from either negative or neutral affinity, I will often hoard these items for the next in case a relationship has to be salvaged there. For encounters, early game I will almost always simply take the choice that leads to the maximum possible affinity gain across the board, and will keep heroes out of the negative zone. This takes priority over fights or loot I really want to take from encounters, the exceptions being if it's a creature den, since those are very reward rich, and if the encounter is needed to complete a region goal that you need the reward from. In combat, always take the opportunity to heal stress below 4 anytime you get the opportunity, unless doing so puts you in imminent danger of taking more stress than you're healing or dying. Same with any sort of move that telegraphs you will lose affinity in combat, do something else unless you face imminent death. While you can no longer see positive affinity telegraphed, it is there, so take the opportunity to stall a fight that is well in hand to buff your heroes, or even simply move them if at low stress for a potential affinity proc. Low value combat items that provide buffs should also be equipped and spammed instead of simply thrown away. And take every opportunity to execute a revenge or follow-up attack if doing so would not lead to taking excess stress or damage. Changing your mindset from simply survival mode to affinity focused is how you max out relationships earlier and save yourself some pain in the late game. And finally, know your quirks. Extra negative relationship chance is no longer as bad now that they don't proc in the positive zone, but you should make any negative affinity bark quirks a priority to remove, since they will always cost you 2 affinity when they proc, and they proc often. These include Chatterbox, Needler, and Braggart, among others. Notably, this makes playing card among the most risky affinity items to play. I always play them early game just because on average they are net positive, but later in the run I will simply discard them unless absolutely mandatory to save a potential negative from happening. Overall, understanding how to gain affinity and adjusting your playstyle to focus on farming affinity when possible will make the game much easier for you to reach maximum positive relationships. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day.